Once again, there are many changes and additions in this DayZ update, with this patch in particular detailing many hidden secrets and hints at what's coming in the future of DayZ. So in this video, we're going to unravel the mysteries of the 27 must-know changes of DayZ 1.18.
Fuck me, 1,247 hours. It's funny how despite all the game announcements, we go back to this fucking 2018 game. Jesus.
Splitting these 27 epic changes into these 4 categories makes stuff much more organized, so we're going to start with the new items of DayZ 1.18 and what you should know about them. My favorite addition to this patch goes to the incredibly powerful M79 grenade launcher, spawning in military locations with its explosive rounds and smoke rounds too, but the gas rounds that come with this weapon only spawn in static gas zones. The explosive rounds will kill all of the stuff within 12 meters, including you, so be very, very careful when using this weapon. And the gas round sends a poisonous gas cloud through walls and floors up to 20 meters wide, which will last 6 minutes and is guaranteed death if you stay within it for 90 seconds. The smoke rounds last 40 seconds and bounce off of all surfaces in DayZ, coming in red, green, white and black, and seen up to 1,000 meters away, so this is like a daytime flare gun. All of these rounds can travel up to 300 meters, and the explosive and gas round can one-shot kill just about anything up to around 100 meters if you can hit it. The very small Derringer has been re-added and fires 2 single-shot 357 rounds, but is nowhere near as good as the Magnum, which is also found in...
they added this back.
The new plastic explosive is found inside industrial areas and requires the new detonator to arm it, and once armed it will kill all living organisms within 20 meters. I believe this will be the go-to item for base raiding in DayZ, destroying a wall completely in 2 explosives. The Claymore mine is found in military areas and is incredibly deadly to players and requires no detonator as it spawns as a kit.
There's
gives you
mines
the
now?
on the ground. The Claymore mine can kill up to 25 meters when deployed in a 90-degree cone and will KO anybody within 4 meters of it. This is also the case in the kit form, but it's not as deadly. If you ruin the kit form, it will KO all players within 4 meters. The new detonation unit spawns in industrial locations and is a one-time use item that can only be connected to 1 explosive at a time. It can be used to manually detonate up to 100 meters away or attached to the tripwire, and when somebody trips that tripwire, it will detonate it within 100 meters. This item can be used to disarm any explosive that requires a detonator to arm, giving you the full unit back and the explosive to reuse it. Once used, it will become useless as you no longer have the receiver to attach to an explosive, but you can use the screwdriver on the trigger to get a battery. These 2 gas grenades can only be found in the very center of dynamic gas attack, with 2 of them spawning each time and remaining in the center of the gas cloud even after the gas cloud disappears. These work exactly the same way that the gas round do that I mentioned earlier, but will explode on contact with anything when you throw them. After placing the fireworks launcher, you will need a lighter to ignite it, and the fireworks launcher will last 1 minute, firing a rocket every 5 seconds, and cannot be used to raid bases with, and cannot be used below any object. You can now craft the sawed-off blades with the hacksaw, which still allows the hunting optic to be attached. Doing this will gimp its stats significantly, so it's not really worth sawing off unless you want to look like a pirate. Sawing off the revolver or the Magnum is also possible now, increasing its recoil by 50%, reducing its damage, and in general just gimping it too.
So
however,
sawed off,
it
there's
becomes
no
40%
reason.
lighter when sawn off and is half the size. The improvised explosive is crafted using the protector case and electronic repair kit, and like the detonator required to arm it, is a one-time use item. You can place all of these explosives inside these 2 slots, allowing for an incredible 81 different combinations, which can then be combined with a tripwire to create super traps that can instantly kill or seriously maim players. However, this item cannot be placed in your hands or inside any inventory slots anywhere, and if it becomes ruined, it won't detonate. Otherwise known as the IED, it can also be triggered by the kitchen timer and the alarm clock when the alarm goes off. There are many new armbands now due to being able to craft the armbands from flags, and the flag pattern will stay on the armband. If you want to learn all about the designs, you can do so in this video that I've made.
That's kind of cool.
The raincoat armbands have changed slightly too. Around 3 new train wrecks can be found dynamically across the rails of DayZ that are custom to each location. These rare spawns will spawn loot based on the tier that you find them in, with the trains further west on the Chernarus map appearing to spawn more military carriages behind them, which is the carriages you want because they are stuffed full of military loot.
Oh, that's actually kind of sick.
These trains also have tier-specific loot on the front of the train, and if the train spawns with these gas tank carriages, there's loot on top of them too. All 3 types of the gas canister can now explode, inflicting 15 health damage and a huge 60 shock damage to players, and will also detonate inside your inventory if you're shot too, so be careful.
Oh my god.
The small, medium and large are all the exact same, but an empty canister will not explode, and nor will the gasoline canister. You can now assign keybinds to any of the gesture animations, with the keybinds showing on the radial wheel, which is still in the game. Using these keybinds, you can play rock, paper, scissors easier because you can now assign keys to paper.
Finally,
rock, scissors.
been waiting for that.
With the addition of the M79 projectile tech this patch, feathers being in the game code for skinning chickens that I mentioned a long time ago, and with the sharp wooden stick in this patch being renamed to the sharp long wooden stick, which means that they're going to add a sharp small wooden stick. It is likely that we will see the crossbow or the bow added in DayZ very soon, as all of the ingredients are there now, but that's just a game theory. The map will now display the location of all military areas written in red, so you can find them much easier, and also you can see the location of all the hunting stands across the map too, making maps great for improving military or hunting gear loot routes. Base walls, fences and frames now take a lot less damage from explosions in this patch, of which you can learn more about here, but basically it will now take twice as much damage from explosives, so 12 grenades instead of 5, but bullet damage is exactly the same against walls. Items using cooking will now take 0.07 durability damage per second instead of 0.125. This means the cooking pot will last 47 minutes from pristine to ruined, the cooking stand 35 minutes, and the tripod 2 hours. Sharpened sticks will now have a very, very high chance to cause bleeding on other players, but do a lot less damage than the spear does, and also the spear cannot be used to cook food. The change in alignment of the weapons on the shoulder slots of players makes it so that magazines no longer clip through the player's arms or under their shoulders, and lights that are switched on the weapons won't point straight up. Using the power of DayZ logic in this patch, these lights will now point forward to light your way, much like the head torch does. Now I know this doesn't make any sense, but I don't care because I love this addition. Fireplaces now become extinguished extremely quickly again once it rains or when you pour water on the fire, and brooms got a fiery new texture on them with attention to detail going on brooms that were previously lit. However, the torches or the brooms are still very waterproof. When cooking with fat, it will no longer reduce the nutritional value of the food that you're cooking, but the fat gets heavily consumed when cooking, and the food will burn very quickly after too, so it's not really worth it still. To avoid this, you can cook with a sharpened stick. However, in this patch, cooking with a sharpened stick removes the same amount of nutritional value that cooking with the cooking pot does when using no fat or water. RIP stick. Landmines in the last patch didn't detonate when shot, now they do, so when they become ruined,
I'm getting killed by one of these.
And if you disarm one with a screwdriver or a lockpick, you can actually reuse the landmine now. This was not possible before, it would get ruined before. Now you can pick up the landmine and use it against the person that placed it there.
Nice.
These lesser field HESCO barriers can thankfully no longer be shot through in this patch, hooray, and this red house now has the correct surfaces on it, so it can no longer be shot through either.
What the fuck?
BK-18
you can shoot
can
through
no
that?
become jammed at all. Even the sawed-off version cannot become jammed, so it will go all the way to ruin before it can't be fired. Grenades will no longer cause bleeding of any kind if you are hit by one, even without any protection at all, including the new explosive round for the grenade launcher. And finally, the walkie-talkie now weighs 250 grams instead of 750 grams, and the big transmitter now weighs 10 kilograms instead of 14.5. If you watched this entire video, you are now a master of DayZ Update 1.18. Well done.
That was a great video.
Give yourself a like using the like button.
I mean, it's like a pretty cool patch. I'm not like, you know, sure, maybe getting the explosives. This guy's pretty cool, yo, Wobo. You can watch his recaps for all the patches. Yeah, dude, I'm not that interested, man. Solid amount of changes, nothing like too fucking crazy. You know, it was like a solid patch. The grenade launcher, I'm not a huge fan. There's definitely a lot more ground explosives, which is like, I guess, kind of cool here and there. I'm not like fucking crazy about ground explosives all the time, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm not like, oh my god, I gotta load up DayZ now after watching that, you know? What is something that DayZ SA doesn't have that mod did that you miss? I just want cars, bro. Just want cars, bro.
While playing 2 full chapters of A Plague Tale Requiem, I felt fully immersed in the harrowing world first established in developer Asobo Studios' original game, A Plague Tale Innocence. The emotive storytelling, engaging mix of puzzle and stealth gameplay, and yes, truckloads of rats still remain, but what impressed me most were the steps forward that the sequel appears to be taking in all of the above areas. With much more involved combat systems and a smarter approach to stealth, there looks set to be a lot of fun to be had, amongst all the blood, rats and tears.
I don't know what's happening to me, Lucas. I feel my mind going.
Oh, this game's gonna be so good.
Requiem picks up 6 months after the events of Innocence, with siblings
Jesus,
Amicia and
the
Hugo
kid grew.
looking to
Oh,
put the
wait.
horrors of their first adventure in 14th century France behind them. If the original Plague Tale was centered on the loss of innocence for the Darun children, then the sequel is about them wrestling with the guilt that comes with their actions. The demise of each enemy soldier, and there were quite a few in the short section I played, that comes between Amicia and her objective weighs heavily on her mind. This isn't too dissimilar from her reaction to killing in the first game, but this time around, there are just more dimensions to Amicia with a greater range of emotions expressed, namely, anger. Halfway through my time with Requiem, rage overcame Amicia, showing her in a completely different light than we'd seen before. It was a display of pure violence unseen before in A Plague Tale, but what made it stick in the memory so strongly was the complete lack of remorse on Amicia's part, who snarled as each rock snapped through the air.
Some heavy fucking aim assist.
I'll teach you to kill my men.
What is wrong with me?
This newfound acceptance for what she believes is a necessary course of action is reflected in the new tools at her disposal. A hefty crossbow can now be used to take down enemies, including armoured soldiers that your sling's projectiles would merely bounce off of. It takes a couple of seconds to wind up. This is 700-year-old weaponry being operated by a teenager after all, but packs a hell of a punch when unleashed. The crossbow bolts can be combined with materials to cause even greater effect, as can any type of ammunition such as rocks and throwable pots. Some of these alchemical mixtures will be familiar to those who played Innocence. Ignifer and Extinguis, which light and put out flames respectively, as well as some new ones. Launching tar onto a burning flame increases the radius of that light source temporarily, providing a potential solution to one of the game's many puzzles. It also has its uses in combat. Lure enemies into a pool of it before setting them ablaze with a neatly thrown ignifer. There's over 20 different combinations of material and ammunition to play around with in Requiem, and it's made all the easier to manage them.
Yeah,
with
this
an
game's
improved
too violent.
crafting and
I'm going back
weapon
to
wheel.
COD as
Switching
well.
weapons is smooth, and the fact that you now have unlimited rocks to hurl at all times is quite frankly a godsend. It's not just Amicia that has new toys to play with though. Her little brother Hugo is now able to flex his special relationship with France's ongoing rat infestation.
They're coming! I can't.
France's
You can't
ongoing
do this.
rat infestation.
Do it. Quick.
Borrowing from other stealth action games like Hitman or the Batman Arkham series, an Echo ability allows you to pinpoint enemies through walls at quite long distances. Alongside this, the Imperium ability that allows Hugo to control the rats has been revamped. No longer do you target where you'd like the rats to swarm from a third-person perspective, but instead you take your position inside the pack and hunt down your prey by directly controlling your tidal wave of rodents. It's a much more satisfying way to unleash a horde on your enemies, with the results being quite vicious as rats overwhelm and consume foes so quickly that the echoes of their screams outlive them.
Damn, the little kid's OP.
The technical limitations of Innocence allowed for 5,000 rats to be seen on screen at any time. With Requiem, those shackles are off, with the tech impressively allowing for more than 300,000 to
What the
surround you
fuck?
at any moment. At its core, the
Jesus.
stealth combat and environmental puzzle gameplay loop of A Plague Tale Requiem is largely similar to its predecessor, but there are improvements across the board. Requiem allows for a lot more experimentation in its combat situations than Innocence ever did, and its new, much larger arenas only encourage this. Stealth games are at their best when they make the player feel smart and in command of an encounter. The small, often corridor-shaped linear sections of Innocence never really offered this. but some of Requiem's combat locations are cavernous by comparison. There now feels like there are numerous interesting options in each area, rather than only one way to deal with
this
a
is
group of enemies.
this is the only
influence of The
stealth
Last
game
of Us
where
was
it's
clear
worth
to see
stealthing.
in Innocence. These larger combat areas and the way you slink around them reminds me heavily of 2020's Part 2. Some of the annoying quirks that can take you out of a stealth game have been smoothed out in Requiem as well.
And Hitman.
Mercifully, one-hit deaths are no longer inflicted on Amicia outside of specific scenarios, allowing for you to endure a little damage before taking cover and healing. Both passive and lethal routes are offered, and you're encouraged to pick a style too. The new skills upgrade system reacts to the way you play and rewards you for your relevant actions through an invisible XP system. Take a more deadly approach and you'll unlock new combat skills, but lean more into being a silent ghost and you'll be granted new abilities that help you sneak around more efficiently. It's a clever system that makes you think twice about how to approach each scenario, while subconsciously impacting the mindset that your specific Amicia takes through the story.
These look like teeth. It's a two-teeth island.
Outside of combat, the thing that struck me the most was how much more colour and life there is in the world, especially when compared to the largely grey and brown Innocence. The original was already graphically impressive, but Requiem looks downright gorgeous at times. This sequel is set in an area of France where you get to see glimpses of civilization before the plague has had its full impact. One of the locations I saw allowed me to—
Alright, spoilers, no more. Hey, yo, this year, though, it's gonna be good shit. Goddamn! Lirik, I am your boy Jojo from the local fuel station. Remember me. Buddy. Louis, we saw that yesterday. Buddy, I haven't been to the gas station in forever.